Welcome back. The gang's all here. It's been a few weeks, but I'm joined tonight by DFS Dan. What's up, buddy?
Boys, I'm so stoked for tonight's show, man. Like, just anything football at all right now. You know, the state of Utah's allowing Mitch to be back. JB's kiddos are feeling good again. So it's just great to be with you. And just coming off, like, the highest of highs this week, as it was literally, as we were talking pre-show, just minutes left in the Cowboys-Packers game. I look at my phone. The winnings say over $1 million on DraftKings. And then Christian Watson happened. And for our Dynasty listeners, he's someone they'll probably want to hear more about over time. But right now, I am mad at Christian Watson. I'm a little mad at JB for putting a Green Bay Packer in the graphic for this week's show. Like, JB, the wounds are still healing.
Listen, we're coming off of week 10, right? And I thought there was one specific image just ingrained in our minds from week 10. And it is Aaron Jones crossing the goal line, paying a homage to Marshawn Lynch. Mitch, you didn't see it?
I did not see it. No.
he finds the end zone. He jumps in the air and
good for him.
You know what? Speaking of that, before we get over to Mitch, this is a perfect segue. Today's episode, this week's episode, is brought to you by MANSCAPED. There you go. Aaron Jones, I'm sure, you got to make sure you're all manscaped up. I wonder if he's using code Theory20. Manscaped, best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped's performance package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide. I'm so excited for tonight's episode. Frazzled already. I think I say frazzled at least once an episode. Lawnmower 4.0, weed whacker for Dan's ears and nose hair, because we know he's talking about it every single week. Take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping with code Theory20. It helps us out. It's going to help you guys out. Aaron Jones, if you're listening, buddy, maybe not Dan's buddy, but a buddy of the show here. Anyway, we got Disney Mitch. What's up, buddy?
Dude, Disneyland's
fun. A lot of buddies here.
They know what they're doing there. We went on the new Spider-Man ride, and the thing about it is, like, it's interactive. So, like, you throw your hands out, right? And you shoot webs. But then I found out at the very end of the trip that you could buy, like, attachments so you can get a higher score on the ride. I'm like, that's Disneyland at its finest right there.
Did you buy the attachments?
Well, I didn't know. No. The very last time we rode it is when I found out. I was like, sweet. Did spend $300 on 2 lightsabers, though. So,
That's a good investment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My son wants those bad. Like, that's a future trip. So.
Well, Dan, you're locked and loaded now.
I might be on the hook for Disney World on our end on the East Coast.
Yes, without a doubt you are.
I bet I'll pick your brain on those lifesavers off the show.
All right, sounds good, man.
I see a few folks in the chat. Greg, Wes, Ron, thanks for joining live. Always appreciate it. Week 10 is in the books. I know. Is it sleeper? It's just like the automatic trade deadline is this week, and then you adjust it. Mm-hmm. But I see the warning message popping up in several leagues, and I'm hoping it was an oversight, and the trade deadline is in fact not heading into week 11. But I know a lot of the safe leagues on MFL, that's heading into week 12. So there's going to be some things here. We're making our final push. We're making that final effort to get into a situation, if we're looking to contend, if we're looking to maximize our return. I don't know if it's it's like Mitch always talks about. I don't know if it's dry air. What's going on here? We've had the heat on. We had some snow here in Pittsburgh today. That was something. But anyway, maximizing the return that you're getting on these veterans and these assets that are helping people win games and get to those playoffs now. This is the time to make it happen. But week 10 is in the books. Not a pleasant day today on Tuesday in terms of some higher end injury news. Mm-hmm. Cooper Kupp, let's start with him, guys. Cooper Kupp, high ankle sprain, just nonchalantly undergoing surgery, going on IR. I was like, wow, that escalated rather quickly. So, Mitch, what are your thoughts here? Because his value has been all over the place. I want to know your overall thoughts. And we typically do this with injuries, and I like it because
Right.
it's easy content, right?
Oh, without a
like,
doubt.
okay,
Yeah.
This is what I would buy for. This is what I sell for. This is what my team looks like in those situations. So what are your thoughts here on Cooper Kupp?
So the hard thing with Cooper Kupp is he's old enough to where his values probably never be higher than it is, but he's still going to come back during the fantasy playoffs and he could still win you those fantasy playoff games. So for me, if I'm a contender already, I'm just holding him. Like I could probably get by for a few weeks without him and be okay. My biggest worry though is if you have Stafford, A-Rob, Akers, Henderson, because like I'm very convinced of this now. A team missing their starting quarterback kind of hurts the offense. A team losing their best wide receiver and one that is as dominant as Cooper Kupp kills the offense. Like I have no faith in any player except for Tyler Higbee, just because he gets so many of those stupid rinky-dink little catches every single game to where he'll probably be okay. There isn't another player on that offense I dare to play over the next 4 weeks while Kupp is out.
I know you don't like, speaking of teams missing their quarterbacks, I know you don't like Kyler Murray, so I don't even want to go there. But Colt McCoy steps in,
It's great.
and, Zach Ertz, we'll get to him shortly, but he gets injured. But DeAndre Hopkins is still producing and still productive. He's getting peppered with targets. James Conner still finds the end zone. So you have these guys, and it isn't just in Arizona. It's not just Dan?
JB, that's because Colt McCoy is better than Kyler Murray.
Oh, yeah, all right.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, all right. See, we're not even 10 minutes in, and I'm frazzled. I'm frazzled. But no, this happens time and time again where we have these quarterbacks. I mean, Jacoby Brissett starting for the Browns. Amari Cooper, for the most part, has been serviceable. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been producing 10, 12 fantasy points a game. David Njoku off the charts whenever he was healthy. Nick Chubb, super reliable. So it's not just for the teams that you hate their starting quarterbacks, even though I don't think you like Deshaun Watson much either. So maybe that's just the theme. Stay away from the teams where Mitch doesn't like their quarterbacks.
See, it works.
But you do make a good point there. And before I turn it over to Dan, I think the main beneficiary, and you stole the words out of my mouth, it is Tyler Higbee, especially in those leagues that are 2 PPR or even 1.5 PPR, or we're looking at leagues where you have to start 2 tight ends. Tyler Higbee now has this resurgence of life back to a position where he's going to produce. He went through that lull, right? And a lot of it was attributed to the fact that he was not running nearly as many routes as he was to start the season. And it was a decrease each and every week. The Rams were throwing less pass attempts and his route participation was dropping. So it was like a double whammy. And we noticed that. But now, and maybe just because Wolford was quarterback, he was looking at him. But I expect Higbee to get into that 25 to 30% target range each and every week that he's available. And is Allen Robinson going to be a beneficiary? You would think so, but it's really hard to get excited with what we've seen so far from him. But Tyler Higbee, it's an opportunity if you've been holding him, if you have him on a team that is now out of playoff contention. I was able to maximize value. And before I turn over to Dan, one specific trade I made today out of the playoffs, I moved. You know what? I have my fancy spreadsheet here. Did I add this trade in today? I did. I moved 12-team Superflex 2 PPR, Christian Kirk, Tyler Higbee, and Jeff Wilson for Javonte Williams in a 23 first. And that was something I felt really, really good about. And I sent the offer and the manager DM'd me right away. And I was like, oh man, here comes a nasty gram. And it just said like, oh, I got to drop 2 players to make room. But I think that was a manager that's looking to contend. And what better pieces for this year than Christian Kirk, who just dropped 2 touchdowns on who the Jags just play? Kansas City. You have Tyler Higbee, who's going to produce with Kupp out, and Jeff Wilson, who in 2 weeks is really taken lead of that backfield in Miami. So, Dan, overall thoughts on Cooper Kupp, the offense, how it affects everybody from a shorter term dynasty perspective, but we're in that redraft mentality. It does play a role here.
First, I want to make an observation, and Mitch will probably laugh, and this is for our listeners here. Pre-show, John was yawning, and Mitch and I are like, don't worry, John, we'll fire you up, because we were a little worried about John. All of a sudden, like, the podcast feed started, and John, I don't know what you drank in the last, 3 minutes, but you just unwrapped a lot there in the Rams. So there is a lot to unravel.
Listen, once the lights go on, it's showtime, baby.
It is, John. I would never know you were tired pre-show, dude, because that was, you got me amped to get even more now. So I think we unraveled, if you're looking at these key weeks coming up and you're looking for an uptick when you talk about the Rams, you guys nailed it. Higbee, there's an uptick just by default of necessity, no matter who the quarterback is. Cooper Kupp's out. Maybe A-Rob has a little uptick where you could consider him situationally. And we got still 3 weeks worth of buys, but dynasty wise, if we're projecting ahead, I have got a lot of worry about the Los Angeles Rams. And John, you mentioned a lot of teams that with different quarterback situations have still maintained good fantasy value, whether we like the quarterbacks or not, or how we feel.
Mitch kicked it off, but I stole credit. But yeah, I said
it. You both are on the same vibe, same wavelength. So they're fantasy relevant, but the Rams have really got some major issues. This team stinks.
Mm-hmm.
And are they in rebuild mode? They were all in for a Super Bowl, as were the Saints, and we've got some concerns in New Orleans as well. But I don't know where the Rams go. Even if Stafford comes back this season, I don't like any of the Rams. I have no desire to acquire any Rams. To your point, JB, Higbee, Mitch, maybe for a rental for this season for some volume and the state of the tight end position. But I don't want any of these Rams next year. I don't even want Cooper Kupp next year. And I love Cooper Kupp and I love Matthew Stafford. But I was worried early in the season about Cooper Kupp holding up because that is all they have. The O-line's broke. The run game's broke. This complimentary receivers are broke. They have no draft capital broke. Their salary cap broke. How do you fix this? They're going to have to trade pieces. Does Ramsey go? Do they start moving off Donald and Ramsey somehow? I don't know. Do people retire? Does McVay leave? There is a lot to unravel there. So if I have Stafford or Kupp or Higbee, and I could get out of any of them without giving them away, I don't want to, Kupp's still a mega superstar and Stafford's a very good quarterback, but I'm concerned about the Rams. If I could get guys that are in better situations with less team dysfunction, I'm about it.
So how far down do we drop Cooper Kupp specifically? It's going to be, Ron says, I bet Goff is available. Ship him back to Los Angeles. Let's see how that one goes. Mitch. But Cooper Kupp overall, he goes from a top 5, unanimous top 5 dynasty wide receiver. Sure, you're going to have some people sprinkled in there. I didn't have him top 5. I didn't have him there. Yeah.
I know what's going to happen.
For the most part, he was right there, right? But now, because of his age, because of the Rams situation, he should be back this year. But if they're not going to make the playoffs at that point, if there's no hope, shut that puppy down. Yeah, all together. Stafford, take a month vacation, whatever the case may be. McVay very well may be in the broadcast booth this time next season. But overall, Cooper Kupp, Mitch, where do you draw the line here? Okay. And I'm going to be all inclusive. So let me know. Let me paint a picture for you.
Yeah.
And, call me Picasso. Okay. So
Rembrandt.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into a debate here about, I know 3 painters, maybe even 2. Actually, John Bauer was a painter, a Swedish. I think he was a Swedish painter. If you Google John Bauer, he did. It was troll paintings, which makes sense because I deal with a troll each and every week here on Dynasty Theory.
Something like that. At some point we'll Google your name and you will pop up. It will happen someday.
I'm on the 18th page or something. Nobody cares. All right. So stop me. And the picture that I said I was going to paint here, you are 7-3. You're in 4th place. Your potential points are solid. Your all plays 600. All right. So you're not like just beating the teams you're playing and that's it. And it's a start 3 league and you lose Cooper Kupp. So That's the situation here. And you really could use a boost to your starting lineup. So 1-for-1 swap, you have Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman.
Oh yeah, Pittman's gone. Well, yeah, I don't want Pittman. Oh, okay.
Wait,
that might be the cutoff.
I
So
want
you
all the
would-
rest of the others before Cup.
So you would not trade Kupp for Michael Pittman today?
No, I don't want Pittman.
I would try to get something else with it.
Do not.
I would.
I don't fit,
I
I
would
don't
love
fit
to
it
get
in the
some-
1-for-1 category.
Oh, I would.
And Cup's not dead.
Yeah, he's not dead. I just
It's
want to get
4
out of
weeks.
it.
But-
even
but
even when he
Pittman
comes
might
back,
not
Mitch, I
even
want to
score
get out
20
of it.
points in the next 4 weeks.
But not only are you getting the younger asset, and I know that's not always, as cracked up as it's played out to be, but you're looking at Michael Pittman. He's comes off another only 12 points. Well, then he had a fumble.
Versus the terrible Raiders. Like the Colts have problems, JB. That's a dysfunctional response there.
So you genuinely wouldn't move Cooper Kupp for
No.
Michael Pittman either of you.
Absolutely not. No.
They hired a coach with as much coaching experience as you, John,
And he did just fine.
versus the Raiders.
I don't. Then what does that say about Las Vegas?
It says
That
Terrible.
whole staff should be
Yeah.
that whole staff should be fired.
Well,
any
yeah.
any offense, you don't have anybody on that roster with offensive coordinator experience in Indianapolis, and they go out and produce. I don't care against who. I don't care how bad the Raiders
that
are.
Raiders defense is.
But then what does that freaking say about the Broncos that are putting up less than 14 points a game? Fire all their asses. Get them in the unemployment line. All of
I
them.
don't warn you.
We're talking about a
that.
trade for Cooper Kupp here. Is the baseline, JB? Like there's. I
No,
want to
but
get
now I'm
out of
talking
it.
about
but-
now I'm talking about Nathaniel Hackett and the unemployment situation here in America. Okay. No, I can't believe like you're in a situation. I know, let's say it's only 4 weeks. First of all, it might be more than 4 weeks because, like I said, if they're not in a playoff situation scenario at that point, they're shutting him down. But then again, it is the Rams. They're completely out of their mind.
Maybe. I don't think they shut him down, to be honest. Remember
Why bring him back?
I know, like I understand the logical thing is to not bring him back. The NFL teams always bring people back. Like Julio Jones was playing like week 16 and week 17 on those years when the Falcons were terrible. The Lions brought back DeAndre Swift for like a single game last season. NFL teams just do it. It's stupid. They shouldn't do it, but they do.
Anyway, so back to Kupp. But let's say it is only 4 weeks then. But you're in fourth place in this league at 7-3. You're battling for a playoff spot, and you're the players on your bench in this scenario. I don't know. I think it'd be very dependent, but I would move Cooper Kupp for Michael Pittman straight up.
He's not helping me make the playoffs any more than someone on my bench probably is.
I need a little bit more.
I don't get where some of the disdain comes from. Like I've said in the chat, in the Discord, which is a part of the Dynasty Theory Patreon, exclusive to our patrons, $5 a month, $10 a month for the top tier. I said, I there's like 5 guys in the league that Mitch really likes. Other than that, he just, I don't like them. I don't like them.
I like Cooper Kupp. Look, if you told me Devontae Smith or Cooper Kupp, now that is one I would really, really have to think about. And you have Devontae Smith way below Pittman. It's just not my fault you have Pittman that high.
But isn't it value too?
The one
Like the
tier.
three-
What do you, whoa,
The three of us could have different values.
No.
on
It's my
Pittman
values or no
Smith.
values at all.
Yeah,
Oh,
we all
geez.
realize this.
I want to wait. They're one tier apart. They're touching each other.
We're
Yeah,
not
but
talking about your
don't
tiers.
don't you
were
think you could
talking
get
about
something more?
Pittman or Kupp? Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, but no matter who you're talking about, like, don't you could get something more for Cooper Kupp, even if you in your mind, JB, say to yourself,
I don't.
hey, I would be okay with Pittman for 1-for-1, but I know that's not market value. I could get more with Pittman.
Well,
Why
what
would
is
you tell our
market
listeners to do it 1-for-1?
What is market value? We don't even know what market value is because the market just reset hours ago.
Not on Pittman,
Did Cooper Kupp not just hit IR?
but he's still Cooper Kupp.
What good is he doing on your bench or on your injured reserve?
I'm not gonna. I have learned from some past mistakes. I'm not gonna mortgage my dynasty team's future.
I wish we had.
You're not gonna have trouble moving him, JB. Why are you discounting him?
I wish we had a producer on the show that like could pull a clip from 20 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago of Dan just saying, "I want out from the Rams." That's a quote.
I do, but I also said I'm not going to give him away.
Dan's the person that has a car listed on like Craigslist, and then that weekend goes out and totals it and still tries to get the same price that was on it before. That's Dan. His Mini Cooper over there, because Amari Cooper plays for the Cowboys and then he leaves. And did you get rid of that car?
No, I didn't get rid of that car. He's still in the NFL.
Dan's winning so much on DFS, he throws the car in the lake, whatever. He's like, I'm done. All right, so let me continue here. So Chris Olave, I tried a 1-for-1 swap. I couldn't get Olave.
Yeah, I could see that. People like Olave a lot.
Mitch, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I mean, it's fine. I know Cooper Kupp's going to be better, though. So that's my problem. Like, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'll love him for 4 weeks. But I'd much rather have Cooper Kupp in, late December.
Late December. All right, so then the trade that I made earlier today, I moved Amari Cooper straight up for Cooper Kupp. Is that a yay? We're good with that?
That's good.
Yeah.
I'd rather Kupp.
Yeah, same.
All right. Thank you. Then we're on the same page there.
So that first 11 guys you named before Pittman are guys I would try to find a way to get out of the Cooper Kupp business. But when you go down to that next tier, I need draft capital or something else that's going to make this not only help me this year, but future-proof me a bit. What's wrong with that?
Dan wants the best of both worlds. He wants his cake.
It's
wants
Cooper
his
Kupp.
cake.
People still love Cooper Kupp. I'm just giving some insight to say the Rams have issues, and the team's either going to have struggles or he's going to get run into the ground because he's the only weapon they've got. And he did get run into the ground.
Dan not only wants the cake, he wants the whole frickin' bakery.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So the problem is you named 8 wide receivers, right? Going from Waddle, Hill, Diggs, all the way up to the top, right?
Well, I'm trying to get through the rest.
And he left out Devontae Adams. I would put Adams in that class.
I would not. I just want to say, like, you would have to have 3 Cooper Kupps to get any of those guys now. That's just kind of what happened is you have those really young wide receivers who are still healthy and doing well, and going from Kupp to one of those is nearly impossible because even the guys who are trying to get rid of Cooper Kupp are going to want, someone like that. A rebuild team is not going to want Cooper Kupp. So getting any of those top 10 wide receivers, you'd have to add so much to Kupp to make it worth it for those teams that I don't think it even happens.
It's a really small window and market that is going to be looking like in that situation. I was moving an older wide receiver, obviously a little bit younger than Cooper Kupp, but I was moving Amari Cooper, and I'm not competing. On my spreadsheet, I have that team listed as a team that's going to compete. Well, the fantasy gods had something else on, in store for the Bauer Club over there, and it's our Dynasty Theory Discord League.
I think you summed it up with it's a small market window there for a Kupp. We are 23 minutes in, and I see a lot of show notes still. So,
all right, really quick. DK Metcalf, real quick. Mitch, DK Metcalf for Cooper Kupp. Deebo Samuel.
Kupp.
Garrett Wilson.
Kupp.
Devontae Adams.
He's healthy. Probably produce the same.
And then Jamison Williams, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, George Pickens, Drake London.
Maybe Devontae. I have a lot of faith in Devontae. Like, I think him and A.J. Brown are the same. They're going to score a lot of points each week.
All right.
Well, concerned about passing volume there. That's all.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I have a lot more on my mind, so jump in the Discord, and we'll talk about this later. All right, because I have a lot to talk about. All right. Dallas Goedert, shoulder injury to miss time. He is not hitting the IR as of now. 2 PPR, any tight end premium format. This is going to be, I don't want to say it is a landscape shifting move, like we always talk about with a high-end quarterback. But Dallas Goedert, for a team that was relying on his points out of the tight end position, this is a big loss. Dan, how are you approaching this if you have Dallas Goedert, if you don't have Dallas Goedert?
It stinks if you had Dallas Goedert and you lost him right now because, the tight end landscape is where it's at. It hurts. Where do you go from here? Who does it impact? In the Eagles, I think we saw in that game, their adjustment. It's like a Devonta uptick. I think a little bit, maybe not AJ Brown uptick. He was dealing with some injuries in that last game. So I think that passing volume, I think it's going to be a really centralized offense with those two receivers. I'd never understand why the Eagles don't run just a little bit more because they got a great run blocking O-line and they just refuse to. The tight end situation in Philly is not an area I would go to. I would either try to make a trade or see what's on your free agent wire, if anything. I think Jack Stoll's a blocker. Grant Calcaterra, 6'4", 240 is a little, light in the tail for me there. I'm not a believer. Tyree Jackson's can be activated this week. Who knows what they're doing there? But like we saw in that last Eagles game, there wasn't a lot of passing volume. Washington really dominated the time of possession and the snaps, and that's a little bit concerning for me. And I'm not going to panic in one game with Philadelphia, but I was really intrigued on what the second half of the season would look like for Philadelphia when they play a lot of teams that have seen them play or that played against them already or have got enough film now that are going to make some adjustments because it's a very unique offense. But once you get the opportunity to adjust, like it took Dallas like 3.5 quarters to kind of adjust in their first game. What's going to be the impact? Now you lose that safety blanket in Goddard. So it kind of stinks for Philly. And I think if, for your dynasty team, you just got to hold Goddard and wait until he gets healthy. But if you're in like contention and you need tight end points in these next few weeks, I would just try to squeeze a tight end off someone's roster or the free agent wire before I would go to those Philadelphia tight ends.
Some dirt cheap options that we talked about. And I think based on their usage over the last few weeks, again, the tight end landscape, they might not give you a weekly 12 to 20 points in that range for 2 PPR formats. But Juwan Johnson, I think he's been a pleasant surprise over the last few weeks. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is based on his usage and the uptick in route participation. Austin Hooper. Again, it's disgusting. I know. But if you're just looking to patchwork something together and you don't want to spend future draft capital, you don't want to move off of more valuable assets, you don't want to move Goddard to fix it. These are just some guys to look at that are, like I said, dirt cheap. And then Hayden Hurst. I think that's a name as well that people forget about, but he's going to give you that 12 to 15 points. And it's not going to be sexy, but he's going to be one of those accumulators that can put up some points, especially with Jamar Chase, who apparently is still on crutches.
Yeah, so John, those tight ends you mentioned there, like Juwan Johnson's a good target. When like the beginning of the season, when the Saints flashed offense for a little while, their receivers after the game, Michael Thomas and Olavi and those guys, they made sure Johnson was mentioned in the same paragraph as them because he was a big part of what they're doing. He's a receiver, really a receiving tight end. He's good. The Saints' issue is their O-line right now. So when guys don't produce, it's just their O-line's in shambles. But I love Johnson. Hurst, especially with Chase out. But even when Chase is there, like that offense could be so explosive. He's a big part of it. And I think you look at matchups a little bit with these tight ends. If you have like a lot of those rosters where we don't have Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, you normally have like 3 tight ends if you're in contention and you're playing matchups. So I always keep, those teams that really smother the tight end, hopefully you have all 3 of those guys you just named and you play the best one. Hooper's a guy that you could probably get. Like that's a guy that might be out there more easily attainable on a team that 100%. Really is desperate for people to throw to.
Yeah, and again, it's super ugly, but I think Juwan Johnson's the name. Looking at his route participation weeks, let's just go 7, 8, 9, 10, 82%, 63, 83, 67. And he's sitting there with 21 targets over the last 5 weeks. So if you're looking to patchwork something together there, maybe look to have him included in a larger package or just, in 2 PPR formats, it's probably going to take a third plus. I don't know if a third's going to get it done, but you could do something involving that. Mitch, do you kind of look at Dallas Goedert in a similar fashion to the way you are approaching Cooper Kupp?
I am, yeah, because so one thing I'll fight back a little bit with you guys on is if there was a team who was counting on Goddard's points, filling it with Juwan Johnson and Austin Hooper isn't going to help you make the playoffs because you were counting on those, 15 points a game sort of thing. So if I'm in a position to where I lose Dallas Goedert and I'm somewhat in the playoff hunt, I'm looking more at a little bit of a higher one of your tiers, John. It's like Everett, McBride, Higbee that we brought up already, just because I think you're going to, if you're already needing Goddard's points, you're going to need more points. And I have no idea how Dan could disagree with that, to be honest with you.
All right, Dan, it's been a while. I'm going to award you an official challenge here.
Okay.
We need a graphic for a challenge.
At least a sound.
Yeah, our YouTube listeners, I have the red challenge flag out there. For those not listening, I have the challenge flag out. The challenge flag first is you put Juwan Johnson and Austin Hooper in the same sentence. Juwan Johnson has had some point scoring weeks that have been as good as Dallas Goedert. So like it's not easy to find a tight end in that same scale as Dallas Goedert. And then, so like you mentioned Higbee, like I don't think Higbee's much better than Juwan Johnson. I think they're all better than Austin Hooper. So I just want to put a little clarification there, Mitch. Like if you're trying to attain tight ends, if you land with Johnson or Hurst, you're in pretty good shape for the playoffs, I think, compared to what? Like you're not going to get Pitts, you're not going to get Kelsey, you're not going to get Andrews. There's no way to trade there, I don't think, unless, I don't know. I don't see that. But to your point of Hooper, Mitch, I agree exactly with what you just said.
Honestly, Dan, you brought something up. Would this work? Goddard plus something to a team that couldn't trade Kelsey all season? I have a couple teams like that. I have Kelsey. I don't want Kelsey. It's because no one will pay me. Maybe I could trade Kelsey now for Goddard plus something.
Yeah, I think that's a very viable, and we've talked about this with Travis Kelce. How many I have several teams that I was trying to maximize the return, and people just don't want to pay. Well, he's old. Well, he's still better than every other tight end going.
Yeah, I truly believe Kelce is in that like Derrick Henry class that is going to last longer than others. And when that wheels start to fall off on Kelce a little bit, you're going to get Jason Witten. You're still going to get some points, I think, at some point. So I would extend his age out a little bit there.
Can I say maybe you don't move up to, I like the way you're looking at it to acquire a Kelce from a team that is not going to be in contention, because it's going to be really difficult to pry Travis Kelce out of a manager's hands that they're relying on those points, right, especially in larger premiums. But a Goddard plus a small piece could entice a manager to buy back 5 years? 27. Kelsey's 33 now, so 5.5 years or so. And I don't know that it would take all that much in some spots.
Yeah.
But one thing that I did this trade in a league that I'm 7-3. It's 2 PPR. The top 4 teams are 7-3. It is a bloodbath. Like there is so much parity in this league. I think there's like 3 or 4 teams that are 6-4. Like it's super tight. So if I'm missing out on points at the tight end position, it's going to be brutal. And it's going to be tough for me to get into the playoffs. So what I did, I have them in the same tier, but I've kind of done a 180 on a guy that we both viewed, Mitch, as a sell. And it's because his situation completely changed. He is no longer in Detroit. TJ Hawkinson. I know a lot of people, they had that preconceived notion and they had the value that he was at in Detroit. Well, he's not in Detroit anymore. And I don't know that people really switched that up, but the last 2 weeks in Detroit or in Minnesota, no, please get out of Detroit. Last 2 weeks in Minnesota, first of all, he just got traded and then he goes into Minnesota. Week 9 has a 22% target share, but the last 2 weeks, 19 targets, 16 receptions. Right there, you're at 32 points in 2 weeks off of receptions alone in those high premium leagues. So for me, anyway, I Goddard and Hawkinson in the same tier for me. But in this specific situation, I was looking at my roster and I was looking for something to add to ensure I could get Hawkinson. Because if this manager looked at my roster, they could have jacked that price up. hey, JB's roll with Austin Hooper at this point, and I didn't feel comfortable with that with the standings. But I added Hunter Renfrow, and it's a small ad. It's not doing nothing for my roster now, and very well might be a minimal change moving forward. But I wanted to secure that spot there, and again, 25% targets per route run, 20% in week 10. And I know week 10, we had that higher volume against Buffalo, but there's an improvement in that at the quarterback position for him. And it's not like, okay, Hawkinson comes in. Well, Jefferson and Thielen are still getting theirs. Thielen's target rate per route run dropped each of those 2 weeks compared to week 8. So, or the previous game, I can't remember if they had a bye or not. But anyway, that's a type of move that I'm looking to make. We talked about some low end pieces.
I'm calling a timeout.
Dan?
For Mitch, I think we need to put JB on a word count tonight. I feel he is like my wife tonight. Like
us.
when she's on a roll, she's on a roll. And you just like I think I was on the couch last night and I was like, do you know how many words you just said in that short period of time? That was JB just there. But JB, I am glad you mentioned Hawkinson because I wanted to get back to Mitch's point. Just Mitch and I couldn't get a chance to get in there. But like I think if you can't get the Kelsey, or to Mitch's point of trying to really compete at that high level and get that value tight end, after Kelsey, it is Hawkinson, as you described so well. And even, a George Kittle, I think, is in that class. I think there's those few guys that maybe you could live with trading Goddard and land pretty good.
Now, if let's say you're okay at tight end, like Mitch, in those formats, you typically load up on tight ends. Let's say you have Kelsey, Goddard, and Higbee. So you're feeling pretty good overall. Would you look to pivot off of Dallas Goedert, cross positionally? And again, you'd have to take a slight value hit, or is that a situation that if you're still okay elsewhere, that you're even more okay just hanging on to him?
I would still prefer to hang on to him, but if I hear someone like, say, Christian Watson, that might be something I have to do. I'm just kidding. I had to throw the name in there at some point this episode.
You're lucky I'm out of challenge flags.
2 PPR, Dallas Goedert or Chris Godwin. Start 3 wide receivers.
Godwin.
Dallas Goedert or Michael Pittman.
Not Pittman.
Boy, does Mitch hate Pittman.
Pittman? No, I hate that offense. It's nothing against Pittman, really.
Well, now you got Matty Ryan back.
It's true. I do.
Because they have a real coach now.
Oh, brother.
All right. Zach Ertz, season-ending injury. We're going from the...
Wait. Because you're shifting to the Cardinals in our next show note, correct? Before you do that, I had one question for you. I've noticed in your trade bait and in some of your trades, John, in our leagues, you've either been active to move or have moved Dalton Schultz. And I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm looking now, like we know he's had this lingering knee injury this year, and Dallas went through the Cooper Rush stage. But 3 of the last 4 weeks, especially after having a week to rest his knee, Schultz has had 14, 19, and 23. My thought, JB, was when seeing you very active trying to trade him is I'm wondering if he leaves Dallas next year, does his value dive and you get rid of Dalton Schultz, and that's a good thing. I'm still wondering what Dallas is going to do because I'm not completely confident they have their next tight end on their offense or not. Like Dallas's offense is so tight end friendly. As long as Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator for all our dynasty players out there, I would want the Dallas tight end, whoever it is, as long as this offensive system is in place. But like, if he comes back, Schultz is only 26 in 14, 19, 23 points. I do think that's the norm if he's healthy and in this Dallas offense.
So the situations, it's a very specific situation, and safely 128. Dan, you and I are in together. Mitch, are you in that league too?
Yeah. I'm trying to lose every game in that one.
I might beat you out for that 101. I don't know. My team's horrendous. But those are the situations that I've updated my trade bait each and every week. I've jumped in the chat. Dalton Schultz is available. There is such minimal interest, Dan, even from you, Mr. Cowboy Homer, who is I'm like, oh God, I have Dan in this league. I'm going to get Kyle Pitts 101. Patrick Mahomes might get thrown in there somehow, but you nailed you hit the nail on the head. You nailed the hit on the head. I'm going all over the place.
Nobody got hit.
I have been reluctant, John, and I have been tempted to flirt with a trade offer with you. And like I think in this league for our listeners,
Buy me dinner first.
Mitch and I are like in the middle on the playoff cusp here. I think both of our rosters could go either way. And I have Juwan Johnson, Dawson Knox, and Robert Tonyan. So for me, I am afraid that Schultz leaves the Cowboys, and I'm just been kind of riding this trio of tight ends wherever it goes. So
I went down this road before, and I'm still paying for it today.
Speaking of Austin Hooper.
And that road is the Austin Hooper Boulevard, the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. That's what we're looking at here. Wes says somebody got nailed. Brought to you by Manscaped. Anyway,
my timeout expired though, JB. If you want to go back to Arizona, I just needed that answer from you.
No, I like that. But now, if I have him and I've tried to package him up, I've tried to do something on a team that's contending. Now I am thrilled to ride him into the ground because he is, as long as Dak Prescott, and like you said, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator, and Dak Prescott is throwing him the ball, he's 5 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets the last 3 games. Route participation, 57, 64, 73%. He is one of Dak Prescott's favorite targets. And even if he doesn't find the end zone, he's one of those guys that is an accumulator. He is Austin Hooper from Atlanta. That is what he is. Dalton Schultz is not going to go out there and be an uber athletic tight end. He's not going to be a speedster. But this system, it fits him so well. That's the big worry. If he goes elsewhere, it's going to be very, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because he's going to need that volume. And I know every receiver, every tight end needs volume, but he's really going to need that volume. So just be careful if you're going out and acquiring him. But if you have him on a contender, I don't mind riding him into the ground this season, and then we'll see where it goes because the market just isn't typically there. Anyway, Zach Ertz. All right. Season-ending injury. 32 years old. Somebody in the chat said, should we get out there and try to buy him on the cheap? I mean, at this point of this season, after week 10, with his age, with a season-ending injury, is he 100% come the start of next season? He's probably still in Arizona, but now you have Trey McBride. Who's to say what that split looks like, even if Zach Ertz does come back and he's remotely healthy? If you want to throw a third out, fine, but I don't think a manager is going to even think twice about moving him for a third. 2 PPR, Mitch, would you move Zach Ertz for a 23 third?
Yep.
Dan?
Completely out on him.
Third just never really excites me. It would depend on my tight end situation and my team situation. So if I needed a third, I'm rebuilding John. Yeah.
But even if you're contending, like he's not doing anything.
I don't know.
He's not doing anything. A trade that actually, I think 3 of our patrons got done today. Zach Ertz for Foster Moreau straight up. That is, I think,
steal.
I love that because you have Foster Moreau who does have the profile that I look at for tight ends. Darren Waller on IR. His teammates are pissed at him because they don't think he's fully committed. He's kind of nursing this. Is this 2 hamstring injuries now? He's really that offense is hamstrung because of him. You know what I mean? But Foster Moreau, and he's going to be a free agent after this season. So we might see that value spike. And so many teams are looking for competent tight end play. Foster Moreau can do that. But now you're getting at least a little bit of production. You're getting potential spike in value, and you're getting the all-important healthy player, which I think is a steal. Like I said, there were 3 different folks that got that done. Would we do Zach Ertz for, I don't even know. I don't even think there's going to be a market to even like go through scenarios here.
No, I don't think there. Can you guys? So we've talked a lot about tight ends. Can you name me the top 3 targeted tight ends in the NFL this year? We've talked a lot about him this episode.
Travis Kelce.
Yep. That's one.
Dallas Goedert.
Nope.
No, he didn't. I'm never good with these like trivia type things.
We just talked about him like 20 seconds ago.
Dalton Schultz.
Zach Ertz.
Zach
Ertz is 2. Number 3 is
Andrews.
Tyler Higbee.
Is it Higbee? It's Higgs.
Unless Fantasy Pros is, I'm sure.
No, but
I didn't think that was true.
That's why I'm wishy-washy on the third a little bit, just 'cause, like, Arizona is so predictable. Like, Zach Ertz is the third highest scoring tight end through 10 weeks. Like, it's still production.
Well, it is. Yeah.
It is, but
so
he
if
is
you're
a
a contending team,
32-year-old. All right, 32-year-old.
yep,
Like,
he just knows how to get open in an offense that, like, and I think these upcoming weeks will be telling. Like, this is like Trey McBride's a little bit of like initial addition here. He's had enough weeks to learn an offense and become an NFL football player, and he's fresh. So we'll see what he looks like. So I get your point, JB. If I'm a contending team, I'm a little bit slower to move him. That's all. If I get
he's racking up those points here for you as a contender.
I don't know.
But yeah, I don't like Zach Ertz or Devin Duvernay.
If I could use Duvernay, if I have to start enough receivers, Yeah, I mean, if you think about the third, I mean, you could get a future prospect in there. It may be worth it, but
Zach Ertz or Darius Slayton, Zach Ertz or Terrace Marshall. I think that's the range we're talking about, guys.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if a lot of people would accept it.
team specific.
We're a little crazy. We always take part in a few December startups. At least Mitch and I do.
Yes.
How low does Zach Ertz go? Like, even in those 2 PPR leagues,
in the 20th.
Yeah, he's a late pick because you punted tight end, or you need a backup at that point, and you're happy to get him at that point in the draft.
All right, last big breaking news: Eno Benjamin, first of all, cut by the Cardinals, and apparently it was a disagreement over his involvement and playing time, and boom, they just cut him.
Done.
So either they really like Keontae, which they might, or there's something else there. I don't know.
There has to be something.
But anyway, the Houston Texans claim Eno Benjamin, and I actually think it's a good landing spot for him. Dameon Pierce, he's getting run into the ground. And I know some people sarcastically are like, hey, don't discount Rex Burkhead. Well, Eno Benjamin, he's been more efficient, more effective in many regards than James Conner this year. And he gives them another piece there, but also kind of give him an audition. Let him see how he works out. Maybe if he does, then you can sign him to another 1 or 2 year deal at a really nice price, and you don't look to bring in another running back. So I think it could be something good for Dameon Pierce longer term, but also it's a nice little opportunity for Eno Benjamin, because like I had him starting in a few lineups this week. And obviously if you're starting Eno Benjamin when James Conner is back, it's tough sledding in some leagues, but I'm like, this dude's not even getting a snap. And then boom, he's cut. So I was kind of happy with it as an Eno manager. See what happens, change of scenery. Somebody said, would you move him for a third? I wouldn't move him for a third right now.
Eno?
Yeah.
I'd take a third for Eno.
I'd move Zach Ertz for Eno Benjamin.
I would not. Eno's ceiling is so limited. I just think he's needs the perfect situation to be fantasy relevant. Was it a good move for him to get out of there? Yeah. I mean, I think in Dynasty Theory, I don't know how many weeks ago I mentioned to you guys, Keontae Ingram has got something, whatever that something meant, because he looked good in the game and relevant. But James Conner looked good again, and until James Conner gets hurt again, which will happen at some point, whether it's this year or next, he can help you win games. Like they're going to ride through James Conner. Now again, after him, other than Ingram, I mean, again, as we know, there's something more to just cut Eno. I think he's better than a cut player. So Houston got some free, quick help. Rex Burkhead's legs aren't getting any fresher or younger. So, I mean, he's okay to have on your roster, JB, but I'm not looking to move a third for Eno Benjamin or Zach Ertz.
I just have no words.
Okay, so I will fight back. I have seen this people say like Rex Burkhead's dead now. But honestly, Eno Benjamin's not going to come in and take over passing down work week 11 in the NFL. It's going to take him time to learn that playbook. They're not going to have him in there pass blocking after 2 weeks. It's just Rex Burkhead's job is really safe. I think he's going to come in, he'll spell Pierce every once in a while, but Eno is he's like every other third or fourth running back on every single other NFL team right now. Is he worth rostering? Sure, but no more than any of those other guys are. Is he worth rostering more than, I can't remember, Justin Jackson or whatever his name is on Detroit right now? No, not really. They're probably both the exact same.
But these are the types of players that I want on the end of my bench.
Fair.
These running backs, they're the type of players. But I'm still, first of all, I'm still thinking about Michael Pittman. I'm going to lose sleep over that tonight. I'm still thinking about Dan. Maybe it's just the older gentleman energy. Dan riding with Zach Ertz, the older veteran tight end.
Do I need to contact Dynasty Theory HR here? I feel some age discrimination right now.
Yeah, coincidentally, HR is also me. So good luck.
Hey, make sure before you go to final thoughts too tonight, I did see in the notes that you had week 10 takeaways, which I thought we were going to be talking about tonight. Now, these are week 10 takeaways. These are like the big news, but I had some other week 10 takeaways, and I won't have enough.
Rattle through them. These aren't even, I'm going to let you have your final thought. So
if we just have a little bit more time, you guys tell me, you tell me, gentlemen, what you want to talk about. But here were some of my takeaways. The main one was the Bucs offense is trending up. It really appears to me that they are figuring things out now and get a bye for health and more prep. I say play them all. Like, I like every single Buck the rest of the way. Godwin, Evans, Otten, Fournette, White even more than Fournette, but I like them both. I just think Brady's got that offense going.
Well, as long as Cameron Brate is active.
Except for not Cameron Brate.
No. It severely
that takes away from Otten, right?
Kate Otten.
Did you get the volume from this week, JB? Was it? I didn't get to really dive into how much Otten was impacted by Cameron Brate. It was enough to get me off of him in DFS. Like, he was off my list when Brate went there. But for Dynasty, like, I think I did still start Otten in a league or two this week.
Yeah, give me your next point here, and then I'll have some information for you.
Yeah, so after the play all the Bucks, the Kansas City backfield, and part of this is obvious, but I'm going to
my notes too.
Yeah, I'm going to more of a future thought. So, like, ouch with CEH. Like, that hurt this week, especially when it was only a 2-back backfield. Like, you were really hoping more opportunity would be there. Now, like, I know he did get stuffed once in the red zone. I think one was going to him in I should say inside the 5, and Mahomes fumbled. But even next year, guys, because we talk about this every year, hoping they're going to draft someone. Unless they get like Robinson or a mega star, I don't care who the Kansas City running back is. That offense is so pass happy. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. So, like, I'm like just devastated for anybody in the Dynasty community who has Kansas City running back shares now. I don't want any of them.
Agreed. And back to K-Dot and Cameron Brate.
Back to Cade. Week
10, K-Dot and 35% route or 34% route participation. That 1% was big. So I had to get it right. Cameron Brate, 52%. So K-Dot really brought back down to earth. Now, target share, 7% for Cameron Brate, a little over 10% for Otten. But as long as Brate's there, it's going to cap him.
John, contact their offensive coordinator. Call Byron tonight, will you? And just tell him that, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, Otten looks the part. He is the part. And then for some reason, they do that.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Man. Jonathan Taylor's back. I just say temper your expectations, but it's encouraging for him. The Raiders are just that horrible, but the dude's healthy right now, and I think that's important. He's not running on one ankle.
Really quick point on that as well. Now, Deion Jackson was out, so obviously that had a little bit of an impact here, but Jonathan Taylor in week 10 ran a route on 83.33% of the route, total dropbacks. Okay. That is the highest of any single running back week this season for a player with a target. The highest. So especially if Deion Jackson is not there, I think that I expect that to continue. Now, he only had the 2 targets, but still, it is very positive to see that he's out there and he's getting his workout in. He's getting those wind sprints in. But even with Deion Jackson there, what,
I don't think it matters.
65%, that's still plenty for a running back.
Yep. Other observations, Kadarius Toney.
Oh, really quick, Jonathan Taylor. So top 3 dynasty running back. We're still there?
Yeah, he's still in that elite tier.
It depends if we're counting rookies or not. The 23 rookies.
For this conversation now.
Yeah, then he's top 3.
Top 3, yep.
Because I know a lot of people dropped him out of their top 5. On the pivot point, I always compare to different data points, and there's some resources. Well, he's running back 7. How quickly things change, and now after one game, he'll pop back up. All right, Dan. Anything else?
Kadarius Toney, I temper expectations because Hardman was out, but I thought it was a positive sign for him. George Pickens, I thought it was a progressive week. Christian Watson, took a step. So just some young receiving talent. Second half of the season, you often see those young rookie receivers take some steps. So I thought that was positive. The Washington running back situation, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson.
All right, real quick.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind the
we're short on time. That's the only reason I'm rushing, John. Yeah.
I know. But for George Pickens, he finds the end zone on a run. He has another 25-yard carry. So we talk about tempering expectations. If we get that now, if he feels like that Chase Claypool role that he's going to be able to get those rushing attempts and that continues, sure. But I think he had a 13% target share. We want to see that come up, especially whenever the overall weapons, one less body there with Claypool being traded.
Work in progress. That's
Right.
some positive steps. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson look good at times and had roles that I think could benefit fantasy. The only thing I'm concerned about is like they had so many extra snaps in that game that the Eagles didn't have. So will they get the volume and the opportunity in future weeks? But they're at least on my radar to watch them. Like they both showed some good ability there. And then my last thought was just the Saints O-line is absolutely depleted. Like they need to get bodies back in New Orleans to for Kamara and for that offense to do better.
All right, Mitch. Anything else, or should we just roll right into final thoughts?
Hold on, I have one, and I can't believe Dan did bring it up. CeeDee Lamb finally had his game. Like this is like the game we're waiting for. He was always okay. He's in your lineup and you're fine with it. Now he finally had like the Devontae Adams last year, 11 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. And now you're like, all right, that's what we needed to cement him in his place. Because the fact is he was always going to get knocked. If this game didn't happen this year, everyone would be like, yeah, he's good, but he's just not elite. But now he has this one game and literally it changes his narrative going into next offseason just because he has one game like this.
Yeah, he looked great. He's had some really flash moments. I'm glad Mitch brought him up. I think and he's part of the reason why I was in the hunt for $1 million this week. He was less than 5% owned in DraftKings contests. So he was a gem of a play. Unfortunately, towards the end of the game, Kellen Moore just couldn't scheme him up to get me any more points. But so maybe I'm just still salty, but yeah, he looked great.
Mitch, would you move your contending Cooper Kupp in your 23 first for CeeDee Lamb?
I would have to be extremely contending because I just don't want to move those 23 first. But if I'm the 3rd best team in the league, yeah. If I'm the 5th best team in the league, I'm still probably keeping Kupp in that case.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Final thoughts.
I hate that graphic. I have to update that.
Love
That was back in my graphic design infancy stage, and you can tell it looks like rubbish. There's that word again. All right, Dan, final thoughts. Episode 181 in the books, week 10 behind us. Big injuries that we discussed. What do you got for our listeners?
We unwrapped a lot today. When you improve those graphics, JB, while you're at it too, your backdrop, if you get some pictures back in there too, I'm going through withdrawal, but I digress. So, hey, as it snows here, as I look out my window tonight in the greater Scranton area, Northeast Pennsylvania, it's going to be snowing and you're going to have more bad cold weather in the National Football League in November, December. It's not always as easy to throw. You have to be able to run the football in the National Football League. Could be some Derrick Henry smash games coming up. Some of those tough backs that are tough to tackle, maybe even Justin Field in those running back categories. So keep an eye on the weather. It's going to be interesting. And final week of Scott Fishbowl, gentlemen. I'm getting a little excited. I'm first in my division in points, and I'm playing I'm in second place in the standings of my division. So getting exciting.
Being second place is pretty good. Being in the top 50 in the Scott Fishbowl is a little bit better.
Gotcha.
But I'm just going to kind of echo what Dan talked about. I was looking through, teams that I kind of want to stay away from in the fantasy playoffs as far as the NFL. And I really only think there's 2. One of them is the Pittsburgh Steelers, And that's because their defense is just good enough and their offense is completely horrid to where like they can't score enough points, but the defense can kind of make the game a little sloppy. And then the 49ers. Like, I don't want to have anybody facing the 49ers because that is like the legit NFL defense this year. Every other team in the NFL, I don't care. Like, I'm not worried about who's facing who except for those two teams.
All right. Well,
Make some trades too, JB. Right? I mean, you mentioned trade deadlines coming up here. I think you really got to zero in because that window is going to close very soon, depending on your league rules.
Yeah. Be active. See what's out there. Congrats, Wes. I just made the SFB playoffs this week, limping in, but cool to make it. Mitch, where am I? I'm in the top 1,800, I think.
Yeah, you're right in the top 1,800. It's impressive, but you're there. I mean, your sister's like twice as good as you are. I think she's in the top 800, so that's pretty good.
JB's allergic to redraft.
She uses our projections, and she won our home league last year. Doesn't watch a lick of football. She just beat me in our home league this week.
Yep.
Make us proud, Nicole. Make us proud.
But that's a testimonial of the Dynasty Theory projections.
Sure.
We're throwing that up again. All right. Well, hopefully everybody has a great rest of their week. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. Again, link in the show description for the Dynasty Theory Patreon. Check it out. If you enjoy it, stick around. If not, bounce. Hopefully everybody has a great week. We'll see ya. Peace.